Happy Hour with Vic, episode 11. Let's drink. What are we drinking today? Today, we're drinking an Azteca. I already poured this. This is number one. And today's a celebration. What am I celebrating? I'm celebrating probably the last day I drink beer. So let's go through the beers. Some of the beers. These aren't all of them. Let's look at the Azteca. We got that Central Original. I think this is Éxito's brand because I've only seen it at Éxito. Maybe Caruja and Éxito. Caruja is like the Whole Foods, and then Éxito is like the Trader Joe's. They're basically the same, but one's a little bit more expensive than the other. 4.3% alcohol. That's pretty good. And this had a little bit of a chocolate taste to it, which kind of reminded me of Modelo Negras, because that definitely tastes like chocolate. And then we have our trusty blue can here, Bahia. I think this is 4.1. Yeah, 4.1. And these are all 45 cents, something like that. And then number 4 would be the costeña, which also has a very, on the front end and the back end, it's very bitter. All of these I'm drinking with lime wedges because they just taste fresh, more fresh, and then I'm actually putting them in the freezer for 40 minutes, just before they're frozen. And then to round off the celebration, we have a Ron Medellin, which is a Ron Medellin 3 años, 3 years. So this is their standard rum. It's 3 years. It's 35% alcohol, ABV, and so I'm going to put these in airplane bottles and in the freezer, and then right before we get into the Uber to the airport, which is somewhere over there, it's in Rio Negro. It's 40 minutes away. So I'm going to have 5 shots of this in my backpack, and they'll be, actually I don't have to put them in the freezer because that'd be dumb, because these are going to be for the second flight. So the first flight is going to be, we're actually flying first class, but it's internationally United Airlines. This is just a semantics issue. They call it business class, but it's the same thing. I don't see any difference in it. If you were flying domestically, the same seat in the US would be called first class. So we're basically flying first class from Rio Negro. The airport isn't actually in Medellin. It's in Rio Negro, which is 40 minutes away. And then we're gonna fly from there to Houston, Texas. Texas! We're gonna fly to Houston, Texas. And then from there, we have a 2-hour layover, which is good enough. It should be long enough to get us through customs. Who the fuck works there? Border control? Get through that, and then we can sit around and probably sober up for a minute, and then get on our flight from Texas to San Francisco. Which San Francisco isn't in, SFO is not in, if you don't know this, it's not in San Francisco, it's in San Mateo, technically, which is a way better place to live. Tom Brady is from San Mateo. Way better place to live than San Francisco. So, our first class flight is going to have free booze. So, and this is going to be my first experience in the first class cabin which they're calling business class for some reason. So I'm gonna ask them for 2 shots. I'm gonna say today's a celebration. Can we get 2 of these so I don't have to be hitting this buzzer? I don't want to be hitting this buzzer. But I don't know. I think maybe there's one flight attendant that's just responsible for the first class cabin. Basically, we have our own waiter or whatever the fuck. So maybe they're not doing anything because most people are probably working or something. They're like on their laptops. They're not drinking. They're not celebrating anything. I hope Bo Jackson is on the flight so I can have a conversation with him. He likes sitting in first class. I've seen him on the plane before, and he didn't like me that day. He was in a bad mood. So if he's up there, me and him are gonna have a chat. We'll have a drink together. We'll talk about a compound boats because my plan is to get a compound boat at some point because I need to stop drinking. I've decided maybe a week or 2 ago I can't drink anymore, and it's not because I have an issue with boozing. I'm a controlled drinker. I am really controlled. If you don't believe me, I can show you on my phone. I have a start and a stop time with my drinking. I have the date, start, stop time. How long did I drink? How much did I drink? 4 beers. I'm drinking 5 beers today because these are the last 5 beers. These could be the last 5 beers of my life. Let's remember. Let's savor this flavor. Ooh, beer. So these could be potentially the last 5 beers of my life, and that's okay. I've drank enough beer. I don't need to drink. I drank enough beer for, I don't know, my lifetime, not 2 lifetimes, so for sure my lifetime. So I don't need to drink beer anymore. And even though I like drinking beer, but this is the problem. I'm not an alcoholic. I know what an alcoholic is. My dad was an alcoholic. He was an alcoholic. He's drinking 30 beers probably. He's not drinking 5 beers and then stopping. An alcoholic can't have alcohol in the house because they can't stop drinking it. They'll just keep drinking. And we never had alcohol in the house. I never saw alcohol in the refrigerator. I don't know, maybe he was drinking his beer warm like a lunatic. But never did I once see alcohol in the refrigerator. Because he's drinking it as fast as he's buying it. So that's an alcoholic. And Dr. Drew from Loveline fame, if you're Generation X, you might be familiar with him. Dr. Drew Pinsky. If you want to go back, you can go back to the back catalog and you can listen to episodes of Loveline from 2001 and 2003, which is cool. It's fun. I listen to them all the time. I'm going through these whole 2 years because Adam Carolla is hilarious. He's just going off on people. People are so dumb. Kids, teenagers, not even just teenagers, people in their 20s, people in their 30s, they're completely stupid. They don't know how to speak. So his definition of an alcoholic is, let me see if I can get this right. An alcoholic is someone in the face of adverse consequences can't stop drinking, meaning they're missing work. They're getting DUIs. They're having negative interactions in their relationships in life. They're losing friends. Their wife's divorcing them, all due to their drinking. That's an alcoholic. This is not happening to me. I'm not experiencing this. I retired at 39, so which was almost 8 years ago. Do the math if you want to figure out how old I am. No one's watching this. This is for my wife for when I drop dead. when I was working, I barely drank. I had a job where you being hungover would have sucked. It would have made it worse. It already sucked sober. Like, I'm not gonna be hungover at fucking work. That's gonna make it 10 times worse. It's too dangerous. It's what you would call a high responsibility, low status job. So the problem is the responsibility. I don't need the status. What's fucking it up is the responsibility. And there were days, there were periods or when I was at this job, when I had to work like a slave, a wage slave. I worked 22 days in a row. There's no way I drank on any of those days. I was not going to show up hungover to this job. And then, on top of that, and this is around 2015, 2016, on top of that, 2017 maybe? Could have been somewhere 2017, part of 2017. In 2017 for sure, I was working 2 jobs. There's no way I drank when I was working 2 jobs. I was exhausted. I was like a zombie. It was insane. But it was good. I appreciate that experience. And then that was only like a 2-month period. And then I, the second job, which was basically a teenager's job, that was the last time I worked, 11/11/2017. Real easy to remember. Last day I worked. So, there's no way I drank. So I started drinking in 2018. I remember telling this to people. The most I ever drank in my life was in 2018. And drinking for me was paired with traveling. And I was excited about getting on a flight. I was like, yeah, let's get on a flight. I got my airplane bottles. I'm going to be getting fucked up on this flight. And I'm fine. I'm a calm, non-aggressive drunk. I'm just sitting there. I'm sitting there listening to music, and I'm in a peak experience. I didn't know it at the time, but I was having a peak experience because I'm listening to the same song. I'm feeling it in my body, the same song, 10 times in a row. I'm just listening to the same song over and over, and the flights would just fly by, and so that was fun. And then I got to Colombia, which is where I've been to Colombia 16 times. And I got to Colombia and I discovered Ron Medellin, 3 años. And I don't know what is going on with how they're processing this, but it seems to be really clean. My body isn't reacting to it like how it would in America. There was times in America where I wouldn't drink. I'd go out with my buddies. They would all be drinking and I wouldn't drink because I didn't want a hangover. I didn't want it to screw up my sleep. Maybe I had to work the next day, and I'm not drinking. I'll just drink a soda. I'm not drinking. I don't need to drink. So there were large periods of my life where I barely drank, and I probably went months without drinking. So when I started drinking this, it was like this miracle. It was like, oh my God, I can just drink. This doesn't really seem like it's affecting my sleep. And I'm definitely not getting a hangover from this shit. So I was just like, fuck it. It's 5 o'clock. The sun's about to set here in Medellin. I'm gonna have cocktails. And I'm gonna sit on my balcony. Sometimes I have fucking apartments with like 3 balconies. I'm gonna go sit on the balcony and watch the sunset, and then probably go on some date with some Colombian chick and have more drinks there. And it was awesome. And then I started drinking beer. Why did I stop drinking? I started drinking wine for some reason. But okay, so if I remember right, my wife and I were traveling through Mexico. And they didn't really have, I don't remember seeing if they had rum. So I started drinking Don Simon, which is just red box wine. And I would regularly drink a liter of that. The box wine came in a liter, it was $2 or something. So then I think we came back to Colombia, and then I just started drinking the box wine that was available here. And then I went back to California probably at some point, and I was drinking a shitload of wine there. And because I thought it was healthier, this wine, oh, this is healthier. And then the scamdemic happened, and we were in Mexico traveling again, and I started drinking Tecate, which is my favorite, better than all of them. I love Tecate, and with a lime. Chocolatey. Tenta already know there's a chocolatey aftertaste. Taste on the back end, which is interesting. And then I just, for some reason, I convinced myself that having 3, 4, 5 beers a day was okay. And I'm gonna have a happy hour every day. I don't have to work. Why not just drink beer and then eat it was intermittent fasting, so I could drink beer, eat a bunch of food, and then take a nap. Easy life, right? And then my stomach just started getting worse and worse. So that's why I'm stopping. I'm not stopping because I feel like I'm an alcoholic. I'm not. If I was an alcoholic, I'd be getting DUIs and beating my wife and getting arrested and doing getting into street fights, which I only do sober street fights. Never been in a fight drunk. So oh yeah, I know I was drinking wine in Mexico because we were in Oaxaca. The one time I was blacked out drunk, I remember we were watching UFC, and the next day, okay, this dog's barking like crazy right here. There's a dog on this balcony behind me, like 5, 6, 7, 8 floors below. It sees its owner coming in. His owner's walking through the gate, and it starts getting nuts, starts going nuts, which is great. Hopefully one day I'm gonna experience that. The true love of a dog, man's best friend. So we were watching UFC. I remember Izzy was fighting. I forgot who we fought, but I know he won. And then we were taking a bus to somewhere. I have it written down somewhere. And I bought too much wine, and so I was like, I'm gonna drink this wine. I'm not gonna be carrying this wine on this bus. So I drank probably 1.5 liters of wine. Maybe I drank 2 liters. I don't remember. And I blacked out. And silver lining here. Silver lining. My wife, the next day, my wife said, "That was the sweetest I've ever seen you." So I was being super sweet to her. And to me, that's telling. Some people, they get blacked out drunk and they're committing murders and doing crazy shit, doing crime. That's what they're doing. And so it was really interesting that she said, and I kind of remember bits and pieces of it, but and I feel like the logic is, thinking about it, the logic is, you're blacked out. Who's driving this meat vehicle? Your ego probably isn't. I think the spirit, the entity behind the wheel is your true nature. So I don't know, maybe I'm like this really sweet guy and alcohol is making me this kind of a bitter guy on a daily basis.